Ryan Clark raves about Lane Kiffin in an exclusive conversation you've got to hear. It's next. Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked On LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We're free, available wherever you get great podcasts. Of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. Thank you for helping make the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. And thank you for those who watch every weekday on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Just drop my pen. Have your cake and drink it too. Birthday cake flavor is back. No fork needed. Vanilla-y cakey flavor. That's a word. Caffeinated kick and no sugar. It's party time. Order now at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. I don't think LSU fans can get enough of Lane Kiffin. Whatever anyone has to say about Lane Kiffin at any point, antennas go up, ears are perked. I do this show every single day, in a lot of instances, multiple shows per day. And I can look at YouTube views and downloads, and whenever we're talking about Lane Kiffin, everything spikes. Candidly, he is a content creator's dream. And I get it. It's exciting for LSU fans. It's always interesting, though, to get the perspective of Lane Kiffin from people who know him. And that's why I turn to Ryan Clark. So a lot of people know Ryan Clark, former LSU Tiger, 13-year NFL vet, ESPN, NFL, and college football analyst. And candidly, Ryan Clark's a friend of mine. I've known him for certainly more than a decade. And we've been friends for a very long time. There was a period before RC started doing the Pivot podcast where he would come on my show weekly during football season, and I have a lot of love and respect for him professionally and personally. Well, about 10 months ago, Ryan, Fred Taylor, and Channing Crowder, who co-host the Pivot podcast, interviewed Lane Kiffin. And that was at about the time where the documentary dropped, the Lane Kiffin documentary, and Lane was sort of going through this image rehab type thing. It was very public. And I did watch that episode, would highly recommend anybody go back and watch it. That episode of The Pivot with Lane Kiffin from 10 months ago. If you didn't see it then, or if you did see it, go rewatch it. But since then, Ryan candidly told me he and Lane stay in touch, and they're on like 6 different group text chats, and they communicate frequently. And Ryan was a guest on my radio show, and I asked him about Lane. And I just kind of got out of the way and gave him the floor. And what you're going to hear is a 3-minute and 51-second reaction. Very different from TV, where you have to be speaking sound bites. When you're doing a long-form talk format, you just talk. So I just got out of the way and I let Ryan Clark talk about Lane Kiffin. And I'm going to play this in its entirety, and then we'll come back and react to it.
I like Lane. Like, I do. I think the one thing everybody knows about him is he's a great offensive mind. I also know how badly, or let me say this, I know how highly he thought of this job, right? When he was being interviewed, or not even necessarily interviewed, when he was being courted, Lane and I exchanged text messages, had conversations just about what I believe this place was, LSU, and also what it needed. And the one thing I wanted to impress upon him, and, Matt, you're just as ingrained in this culture as I am, and me and Scott Van Pelt talk about it all the time, is that we love this place and its people so much that the only way to get us to embrace you is if you embrace that, right? If you embrace our culture, if you embrace our passion, if you embrace our love, if you embrace all of those things, then we'll love you back. And if you don't, you can't ever lose. You can't ever slip. You have to be. If I'm wrong, Matt, tell me.
No, you're
tell
right.
me I'm wrong.
You're right.
Right, I do believe the guy before him didn't get embraced because he didn't embrace us. He didn't. The simple way I put it to him is, you don't accept the LSU job and act like you did us a favor, because we actually did you one.
That is a strong way to put it.
And that to me is how I feel Lane embraces this job. Like, he's probably gonna be mad at me, and I'm gonna accept it. And he'll just I'm sure I can beat Lane up. Matt, this dude, bro, one of his first days at work, it's like 5-something in the morning, and he's pulling up to the facility, and he takes a picture, the Tigers out front, and he takes a picture, and he's just like, there's no better place to be. He's taking pictures from in front of the stadium and sent them to me. He is not only like embracing being at LSU, like I feel, and maybe he's just tricking me because I have a microphone. Like, I feel like the dude understands, like, this is the place. And if you're good here, and I told him this too, I was like, if you're good here, bro, you're a god. You just are. If that team, how that team does on Saturday dictates the other 6 days of the week for so many people who are here. And, we had those conversations, and he wanted that pressure. He wanted that level of responsibility. He wants to be accountable, and he wants to be accountable to the people who feel that way. And to me, that's the only way you can do this job now. And Nick Saban started that. But the only way you can do this job is to be accountable to the culture, be accountable to the people, be accountable to those young men in that locker room. And I don't find myself easy to fool, but if I'm not, or if I am fooled, then he's done a damn good job of really embracing not only former players, current players, but also what it is to be the head coach here. And, I think that's a difficult thing to do sometimes.
I think you understand why I wanted to play that for you in its entirety. There's just no part of that that should have been cut out. A few things. And notice he started by saying he's a great offensive mind, but after that, the next 3 minutes and 40 seconds had nothing to do with Lane Kiffin being a great offensive mind. It was all about him embracing LSU and the culture in Louisiana. And, RC said it, the only way to get us to embrace you is for you to embrace us. And if you do, we'll love you back. I've said it forever. I've said it about people like Drew Brees. And we all say it in a different way, but we all say the same thing. It's, Joe Burrow, if you embrace us, we'll give you the biggest bear hug back in the world. Like, we love our culture. We understand we are idiosyncratic. We talk funny. We spell things funny. We eat funny things. We sure know how to throw a party, but we love that about where we live and the way that we are here and the way we treat people. And you've got to wrap your arms around that. And if you do, we'll welcome you forever. And there are examples, very notable ones that did. And so RC there sort of drew a contrast between Kiffin and Brian Kelly, and that's fair. That is fair. That Kelly didn't necessarily embrace it the way Kiffin has. But then again, I don't know that I've seen anyone, literally anyone, embrace it to the degree Lane Kiffin has so publicly, because he's so outward on social media. Now, the other thing, because I know there's a lot of Ole Miss fans who watch and listen to this show now, who found it during the whole Lane Kiffin courtship and what he was going to do. And a lot of people come every day, and I welcome you. I'm glad you're here, sincerely. And you heard RC say, maybe he's tricking me because I have a microphone. And I know there's a lot of Ole Miss fans that are saying, that are right now rolling their eyes going, did the same thing to us. And I want to remind you what I said here during that whole saga was that I believe two things could be true at the same time. That Lane Kiffin could be sincere, that he loved Oxford and loved Ole Miss and was grateful for the opportunity. And when he said, I needed Ole Miss more than Ole Miss needed me and all that stuff, like, I believe that's true. I don't think he was being disingenuous. I think all of those things he said is true. I mean, he got sober at Ole Miss. His family sort of, reunited while he was at at Ole Miss. There's a lot of wonderful things that happened to him in his life. So too can it be true that he wants more professionally. And that's why he left. I think two things can be true at the same time. So I think the same thing can be true what Ryan Clark is saying there, that Lane Kiffin is he gets it. He's embracing the culture because he wants to be in it. He respects what LSU is, and it's the place, as he said. And so too can it be true that maybe someday he looks for the next challenge. But you can't go into this relationship fearing how it could end, because you're going to miss a heck of a ride if you do. Now, part of that ride year one, of course, is going to be Sam Leavitt at quarterback. That's a guy who Ryan Clark knows a lot about. You're going to hear what RC had to say about Sam Leavitt when we continue Locked on LSU, your team every day. Welcome to the 5-Hour Energy Flavor Draft. We're looking at every aspect of the draft to let you know which tasty flavors are the best and which just might be sleepers. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and only one is going to take the top spot. 5-Hour Energy, they got a wide variety of flavors, something for everyone. And 5-Hour Energy shots give you a boost with 0 sugar. Told you this for years, but I take a 5-Hour Energy and have for years every day before my 3-hour radio show. I never get a crash, and it gives me incredible focus to make it through 3 hours of radio and to stay sharp throughout. So my favorite, I love the grape extra strength. I got a box of them in my desk drawer at work at all times. You should find your favorite flavor as well. So find your new favorite flavor of 5-Hour Energy shots, available online at 5hourenergy.com or at Amazon. That's 5hourenergy.com or at Amazon. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? Who doesn't? Well, FanDuel is giving you a chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you're automatically entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. Listen, I love futures this time of year. I love futures all the time. But whether you're picking a team to win the NBA championship, maybe to win the conference title, it adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And now, not only can your pick cash, but it could also send you to the NBA Finals. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So Ryan Clark, during our conversation, also discussed Sam Leavitt. I wanted to ask him. Now, you know, Sam Leavitt, and you're going to hear in this part of the conversation as well, if Sam Leavitt played at Arizona State, as you well know. Well, Ryan's son, Jordan, also played at Arizona State. However, they missed each other by a year. So Jordan's final year at in college, he transferred to Notre Dame. That was the 2024 season when Notre Dame played for the national championship and lost to Ohio State. Well, that was Sam Leavitt's first season at Arizona State. So they missed each other by a year. But still, it's someone that Ryan Clark is very familiar with for another reason, and it's the head coach at Arizona State. Give a listen.
I do. A little background about how I feel about the whole Sam Leavitt thing. It's bittersweet to me. I'm torn. I am a huge Kenny Dillingham fan, who's the head coach of Arizona State. Like not just a little fan. I'll tell you how big of a fan I am. And I know it wouldn't have happened. I would have been happy if we hired him as our head coach at LSU.
Okay.
I would have felt like that was a great hire. I know the world probably would have felt differently. Man, I watched this man turn crap into sugar with an offense who had – I'm being honest with you, bro. Bro, I watched the game where Scatterboo felt like he threw the most passes, ran the most balls, caught the most passes, and punted more than the regular punter. Because he was all that they had.
Yeah.
You know, and then the next year, that team finds its way to the college football playoff. And Sam Leavitt, not that this kid wouldn't have been great anywhere, but in part, he's where he is because he did go play at Arizona State. So that aside, you know, I want to just give Kenny Dillingham his flowers.
And by the way, just to be clear, RC,
Leavitt and Jordan. So Ryan's son Jordan was at Arizona State until he played his final season.
They never played together.
They missed each other by a year, right? Because
they missed each other by a year.
Jordan went to Notre Dame when Leavitt went from Michigan State to Arizona State.
Absolutely. I think he can really play. I think he's extremely talented. I think he's fearless. He's really, really competitive. And I think he made the right move. Even with all that I said about Arizona State and Kenny Dillingham, there's no way to look at Joe Burrow, there's no way to look at Jaden Daniels and not say, this is the move I'm supposed to make. The level of talent they've already assembled around him, the support that this team has, I think that's he and Lane, that's the key card. The ability to keep some of the defensive coaches, to me, was really important. People with head coaching offers who stay on the staff to be here to not only recruit, but to have some sort of carryover with the understanding of what this place is, I thought was huge. And I do believe they can win it, but I would, you're in this business as much as me. You cover college football as much as I do, if not more. Kurt Stignetti is now the bar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he did that he made the playoffs the first year at Indiana, Matt. And don't get me wrong, I know they won a national championship now, but it's Indiana. This is LSU. You don't get time. We don't get to wait. What we did for Brian Kelly is still just an enigma to me that we waited that long. So Lane has to win this year. I think this year it's Final Four or bust. If you don't make the college football playoff semifinal, I think this year is a failure. And the expectation with the commitment that they've made in NIL, with the utilization of the transfer portal, and honestly, bro, with some of the bad publicity it was to have Lane here during the college football playoff. I mean, I ain't really care because I don't care what's going on at Ole Miss. I'm sorry for them. But, it wasn't great. You got to go win it. You got to go prove that you were worth it. And let's not act like he's going to be a Boy Scout every single day and always say what's right and don't tweet what he's not supposed to tweet. He has to go show that he is the coach that I believe he is, that many believe he is, that he showed he was at Ole Miss in taking teams that were maybe under-talented and winning a ton of games. So I look forward to this year, man, and I'm expecting big things from both Lane and his program.
Great stuff from Ryan Clark. I love what he said about Kenny Dillingham. Now, I sort of disagree with something where he said the world may not have been okay with that hire. I feel like there were a lot of people who would have supported, at least in LSU circles, that would have been very supportive of Dillingham. The one name, and now look, it all worked out with Kiffin, but the one name that people seem to really be pushing back against was Eli Drinkwitz. And I'm telling you, Drinkwitz was very much in play had Kiffin not taken the job. So that's a conversation, thankfully, we don't have to have. But, he did also talk about Leavitt benefiting from being with Dillingham, who's a brilliant offensive coach. Well, so is Lane Kiffin. I mean, he took Blake Sims at Alabama and turned him from a running back into a 3,000-yard passer in college football. You took him went to FAU and set scoring records at FAU. You look at what they were able to do at Ole Miss in each of the seasons there in the last 5 years. They were top 10 in scoring offense. I think the lowest, if I remember this off the top, the lowest during Lane's 6 seasons at Ole Miss, the lowest they were in scoring offense was 13th. It's the lowest they was 13th. And it really hasn't mattered if it was Matt Corral or Jackson Dart, or this year with Trinidad Chambliss, who, as we know, not even playing the full season, finished just short of 4,000 yards. It was 3,900. The final number was 3,937 passing yards for Chambliss. So I also am curious how you feel, assuming you're an LSU fan, about what Ryan said about Final Four bust this year. Because, I look at the financial investment in the roster, the financial investment in Lane Kiffin and the staff, and it's hard to move away from that. I mean, Indiana, we can use that as an outlier, but that's going to be the standard. Kurt Stignetti got Indiana into the college football playoff in year 1. Now, this is the SEC, and you've got a non-conference game against Clemson, and you have to play Texas A&M and Alabama, both who were college football playoff teams a year ago. You've got November games against Texas, and then on the road at Tennessee. It's a really tough schedule that LSU is going to face this year. And the standard is you got to be 10-2 effectively to get into the college football playoff. So we'll see how this year goes. But also, once you're in, so much of getting in and advancing is determined by your draw. I mean, we've seen it in 2 years of the 12-team playoff. There's only one team that had a bye that advanced, and that was Indiana this year. The other 7 teams that had byes all lost. Now, there's an asterisk. One of them was Arizona State. One of them was Boise State. But nonetheless, the point is getting into the college football playoff Final Four to the semifinals feels like a realistic opportunity for this team. And it better be, but Sam Leavitt's going to have to be great, I think, for LSU to get there. Now, he was part of a gigantic transfer portal class. Chris Hummer is the national transfer portal analyst for 24/7 Sports, and I was able to catch up with Chris to get a few impressions on this transfer portal class from LSU. You'll hear that to wrap up next. It's Locked On LSU, your team every day.
I'm Clea Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. It was a heavyweight showdown between number 3 South Carolina and number 7 LSU, and the Gamecocks rose to the occasion. South Carolina secured a hard-fought 79-72 victory to stay atop the SEC standings, using a balanced offensive attack to outlast the Tigers. Tessa Johnson led the way with 21 points, while Raven Johnson added 19. Medina Okot dominated the paint with a double-double, finishing with 12 points and 17 rebounds, while Joyce Edwards chipped in 10 points to round out the scoring. With the statement win, the Gamecocks now turn their attention to a road matchup at number 23 Alabama on Thursday. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
Caught up with Chris Hummer, the national transfer portal analyst and college football writer for 24/7 Sports and CBS. And LSU finished by a wide margin with the number 1 transfer portal class in the country, according to 24/7 Sports. So I asked Chris about the gap between number 1 LSU and number 2 Ole Miss.
It's a pretty significant gap, and LSU's class is the number 1 transfer class in history. I would say that the transfer rankings are still relatively new, and even the quality of them, I would say, has only improved over the years. So looking back to 5 years ago is a little different than now. But, yeah, LSU's class is as good as it gets in the portal. 3 number 1 players at their position, and you could argue the 3 most important positions on the field. So LSU was very aggressive in the portal, and they quite clearly have the best class.
For what it's worth, when you look at the points, right, how they graded to determine the top class, LSU had 80.35 points. Ole Miss was number 2 at 57.80. Then Texas was number 3 at 54.69. So you could just see that gigantic gap between LSU and number 2 Ole Miss in this transfer portal class. Now, the 2 other things I thought were interesting to talk about with Chris was value. Like, it's easy to look at Sam Leavitt and Prince Willie Monmielen and Jordan Seaton, the guys, they're the number 1 players at their position who Chris alluded to. But where did maybe LSU find the most value position in this portal class?
You could go a lot of directions, but it's hard not to look at receiver and what they did in the portal at that position. There's just a lot of quality there from top to bottom. Guys like Trey Brown, Eugene Wilson, Jace Brown coming over from Kansas State. That is a really, really solid group. I like what they did at edge as well. Jordan Ross and Princewell coming over from Ole Miss. Like, that is the highlight group. So those are 2 of the areas that stick out. Obviously, there's a lot of investment in the offensive line, but I think that unit has a little more to prove than some of the others, at least among the portal class.
Speaking of those receivers, by the way, remember, your leading receivers from this year, Barian Brown gone, Xavier Thomas gone, Aaron Anderson gone, Kyle Parker transfer portal gone, Chris Hilton graduation gone, Nick Anderson transfer portal gone. I mean, that's your top 6. The only other receivers that caught a pass were Destin Hill, Jelani Watkins, and then Phillip Wright. Phillip Wright, who had 1 reception for 2 yards, is the only of those that are back. So you return one wide receiver. Not pass. I mean, Trey's Green's back and Caden Durham's back, Harlan Berry, who caught passes, but wide receivers, you have one wide receiver returning that caught a pass. It's Philip Wright who had one. So you had to go address receiver, and they did in a big way. But I asked more specifically about players. Was there a sleeper player that might make an impact on this team? He started by talking about William Satterwhite, the center from Tennessee.
William Satterwhite, I thought, was a really good pickup at center for LSU. I think he has a chance to be a really good impact player for them. I always liked Dylan Jones leaving Wisconsin when he was in high school. Sean Tompkins, the tackle coming over from Baylor, I think can be a really high-level contributor in the SEC. TJ Daugherty's probably the guy I would probably pick, though. He's a plug-and-play starter and a linebacker. Going to eat snaps for them. I just did a big under-the-radar list of transfers. Nationally, only one LSU player made the list because they had so many highly ranked guys, but it was actually Landon Clark, the third-string quarterback for LSU, a guy who would have started at pretty much every G5 school in the country this year had he chose to leave. I don't think LSU's quite going to have to get there. At least LSU fans, I'm sure, hope they don't, but he's another guy that people really like.
See maybe in a couple of years how it looks with Landon Clark if he sticks around. Sean Tompkins was really the interesting one he mentioned, because I think Sean Tompkins has a great opportunity to be the fourth starting offensive lineman, but we'll start to figure out some of those rotations and answers when LSU hits the practice field here in a few weeks for the start of spring practice, actually about a month from now. Okay, that's going to do it for us here on today's episode of Locked on LSU. Hey, if you're listening, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app, rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. If you are watching on YouTube, thank you, but please also do us a favor, jump onto your favorite podcast app and subscribe there as well. It'd be a huge help to us in the show if you could do that for us. So thank you so much. And please let a friend know that if they love the Tigers, we got you here every single day for Locked on LSU. It's your team every day.